I remember the sound before I remembered the words. The clatter of plates, the hum of conversation, the laughter that felt too bright, too effortless. Family dinners were supposed to feel like home. But that night, home felt like a test I was always failing. My mother's voice carried through the kitchen, cheerful and sharp. Let the little ones eat first. They've been waiting all day. And I smiled, because I thought she meant all the little ones. But then I saw her eyes shift. The warmth in her tone wasn't for mine. It was for my sister's kids. Those perfect, polished darlings who could do no wrong. My 2 children stood beside me, plates in hand, polite, quiet, the way I raised them to be. They waited for their turn. My mom didn't even look at them. Oh, not yet, sweetie, she told my youngest. Let your cousins go first. We'll see what's left. And that word left, it burned through me like acid left. The leftovers, the remains, my kids, my heart walking outside my body, were being told to wait for scraps. And the worst part, they didn't even flinch. They just nodded, used to it, used to being last. Used to being the ones who never got the first slice of cake or the newest toy or the warm seat on the couch. I wanted to scream, but instead I smiled that polite, tired smile, the one daughters like me have been trained to wear since childhood, the one that says I'm fine, it's okay, when it's not. My sister sat across the table, smirking like she always does when the scales tilt in her favor. She didn't need to say anything, the silence between us said enough. She'd always been the golden one, the one my parents bragged about, the one who could do no wrong. I tried to distract myself by helping the kids with their plates. The food looked beautiful. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, all the trimmings. But each scoop I served for her kids felt like a small betrayal to mine. When the last piece of chicken was placed on her son's plate, I caught my breath. I looked down at the serving dish empty. My daughter whispered, "It's okay, Mommy. I like mashed potatoes better anyway." She said it softly, trying to comfort me, and something inside me cracked, not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet internal break. Like the sound of a heart quietly giving up on being understood. I felt my throat tighten, but I forced myself to sit, to act normal, because in this house, feelings were weakness. And I had learned long ago that weakness got you mocked, not helped. As everyone started eating, I could hear my mother cooing over my sister's children. "Oh, look how well they eat. They're so polite." My father nodded proud, like he was the king of some small, perfect kingdom that didn't have room for my children. My son sat still, his fork barely moving. I saw him looking toward the chicken bones and then back to me. I knew that look. The one that asks, why are we always the ones waiting? I swallowed hard and whispered, "Eat your potatoes, baby." And I hated myself for saying it, for settling, for teaching him the same quiet endurance I was raised on. I tried to talk, to make small conversation, but my voice felt like gravel in my throat. My sister was already bragging about her husband's new promotion, her kids' piano recitals, the vacation they were planning. My parents nodded along, glowing with pride, as if her success was their oxygen. And I sat there, invisible again, the daughter who made all the wrong choices. The one who worked too hard, loved too honestly, raised her kids alone because she refused to pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. I told myself to breathe, but the air was heavy. Every laugh, every compliment, every little glance between them felt like a reminder, you're on the outside looking in. When dinner was over, the dishes were stacked, the room buzzing with satisfaction. My mom looked at me and said, "You didn't eat much, honey. You should have spoken up." And that, oh God, that was the spark. The quiet fury that had been simmering for years found oxygen. "Spoken up?" I repeated, my voice trembling but steady. "When have you ever listened when I spoke up?" The room froze. Forks paused midair. My sister's eyes widened, half delighted, half terrified. My mother blinked. My father's face went cold, that familiar mask of disappointment settling in. I stood up, the chair scraping against the floor, and all the years I'd swallowed came spilling out. "Do you even see what you just did?" I said, my voice rising. "You told my kids to wait for leftovers. You made them feel like they don't belong at this table. Like they're not family enough. Do you have any idea how that feels?" My mom started to say something, the usual deflection. "Oh, don't make such a big deal." But I cut her off. No, I'm done pretending it's not a big deal. I grew up sitting at this same table, watching you serve her first. Watching her get the best, the biggest, the warmest. And I told myself it didn't matter. That love was more than fairness. But it's not. Love is fairness. My father tried to step in. "Jacqueline, calm down." But I couldn't, not anymore. The years of being the good daughter, the quiet one, the peacekeeper, they collapsed. "No, Dad, I'm not going to calm down. Because my kids just learned tonight what I learned my whole life. That in this family, love has a ranking system. And we're always last." The silence that followed was suffocating. My sister shifted uncomfortably, pretending to check on her kids, but I saw the guilt flicker across her face. Just for a second. My mother looked like she wanted to say something kind, something to patch it over. But she didn't. Because deep down she knew I was right. I took my kids' hands, Let's go, I said softly. My voice wasn't angry anymore, it was tired. Bone, deep tired. My son looked at me confused. But, Mommy, dessert. I shook my head. We'll have our own. As we walked out, I could feel every pair of eyes on my back. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry, I just left. Because sometimes leaving is louder than screaming. The drive home was quiet. The kids were half asleep in the back seat, their faces illuminated by the passing streetlights. My daughter whispered, "Did we do something bad?" My heart cracked all over again. "No, baby," I said. "You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes grown-ups just forget how to be kind." When we got home, I made pancakes for dinner. Silly, warm, buttery pancakes. My son giggled when the syrup overflowed. My daughter danced around the kitchen in her pajamas. And in that tiny moment, amidst the chaos and crumbs, something inside me softened. This was what family was supposed to feel like. Not perfect, not polished, just safe. Later that night, my phone buzzed. My sister, "Mom's upset. You didn't have to make a scene." I stared at the screen, the old guilt flickering in me, the reflex to apologize, to fix, to smooth things over. But then I looked at my kids sleeping soundly, their faces peaceful, untouched by shame, and I deleted the message. The next morning, my mom called. I almost didn't pick up, but something in me needed to hear her voice, maybe to see if she'd understood. "Jacqueline," she started, soft, cautious. "You embarrassed us last night." I closed my eyes. "I spoke the truth," I said. "That shouldn't be embarrassing." She sighed. "You're too sensitive. You always have been." That word again, sensitive, as if caring too much was a flaw. As if wanting fairness made me difficult. I'd spent years shrinking myself around that word. "But not anymore, maybe," I said. "But at least I'm sensitive enough to know when something's wrong." The silence stretched. Then she said quietly, "You know I love your kids." I almost laughed. "Then show it," I said. "Don't just say it when it's convenient." We didn't talk long. The call ended the way so many of ours do, unfinished, awkward, hanging in midair. But something was different this time. I didn't feel desperate to be understood. I didn't replay the conversation in my head, trying to twist it into something softer. I just let it be. Days turned into weeks. The next family gathering came and went. I didn't go. My sister posted pictures online, smiling faces, the usual captions about family time. My mom commented with heart emojis. My dad liked every post. I scrolled through it once, felt the familiar ache, and then put my phone down. Because I finally understood something that had taken me years to see: being excluded hurts less than begging to belong. My kids asked once if we'd go back to grandma's. I told them maybe one day. But I also told them that family isn't defined by a table or a last name. It's defined by who makes room for you, not who makes you wait. I started building new traditions. Sunday dinners at our place. Everyone helps cook. Everyone eats at the same time. My son insists on saying grace, even though it's just a few words, but in his voice I hear something: pure gratitude. Not obligation, not performance. Just real, simple love. And in those moments I think about the girl I used to be, the one sitting quietly waiting for her turn, mistaking crumbs for care. I wish I could tell her that she deserved more all along. That love shouldn't be rationed. That being, the good one, isn't the same as being loved. Sometimes my mother calls, sometimes she doesn't. Sometimes I answer, sometimes I can't. Healing isn't linear. It's a loop of remembering and forgetting, of forgiving and drawing boundaries again. But I've stopped chasing fairness from people who thrive on imbalance. I've stopped trying to teach empathy to those who see kindness as weakness. My worth is not up for debate at their dinner table anymore. The truth is, I didn't really snap that night. I woke up. I finally saw the pattern for what it was, and I chose to break it, not pass it on. Because I refuse to let my children inherit my silence. Love should feed you, not starve you. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away before you become someone who teaches your children that scraps are enough. Healing began the moment I stopped asking them to understand and started understanding myself. I used to think love meant making room, even when it hurt. I used to believe that if I just kept setting the table, kept showing up, kept smiling, kept pretending I didn't notice the empty plate in front of me, one day they'd finally see me. One day, they'd finally hand me something warm, something real, something that felt like love. But every dinner, every family gathering, every forced laugh over cold food taught me the same quiet truth. Some people don't forget to feed you, they just like watching you wait. That realization didn't come suddenly. It came in pieces, chipped away by moments so small they almost seemed harmless. A comment here, a glance there. "Oh, we didn't think you'd come." There wasn't enough to go around. "You don't mind, do you?" I minded. God, I minded. But I was raised to believe that speaking up was disrespectful, that making others uncomfortable was worse than being hurt yourself. So, I smiled through it, collected my crumbs, and called it family. The truth is, I set the table for people who never planned to serve me. I cleaned their messes, listened to their stories, celebrated their milestones, and waited for the same energy to come back my way. It never did. It was always me, bringing the extra dish, the extra warmth, the extra effort, hoping that this time would be different. But it never was. The pattern was too familiar. They took and I gave, and they mistook my kindness for convenience. I remember one night in particular. It wasn't even about food. It was my son's birthday. I'd invited my parents, my sister, everyone. I cooked, decorated, made sure everything looked perfect. They showed up late, of course, with half-hearted smiles and the same tired excuses. Traffic was terrible. One had to stop for gas. But when my sister's kids ran up with cupcakes, suddenly everyone had energy again. The laughter got louder. The compliments flowed. And just like that, my son faded into the background of his own celebration. He didn't say anything, he just looked at me. That quiet look of disappointment only a child can have. The one that asks without words, why am I not enough? I felt it like a knife. Because that was the same look I used to give my mother when my sister got the praise, the gifts, the attention. I'd promised myself that my kids would never feel that way. And yet, there it was. History, repeating itself right at my table. That night after everyone left, I sat in the dark and replayed every moment. The way my mother complimented my sister's kids for every little thing, while barely noticing mine. The way my father leaned back in his chair, smiling proudly at her stories, barely acknowledging mine. The way I tried to start a conversation and got talked over, as if my voice was just background noise. It wasn't anger that filled me. It was grief. Grief for the years I wasted trying to earn what should have been freely given. You start to realize after a while, that the hunger doesn't come from food. It comes from absence. The absence of being seen, being valued, being treated as equal. I didn't want to be worshipped or celebrated. I just wanted to be treated like I mattered. But in that house, mattering was a privilege reserved for the golden ones. For so long, I thought the problem was me. Maybe I wasn't charming enough, or successful enough, or soft enough. Maybe if I just did more, brought better gifts, called more often, stayed quieter, dressed nicer, they'd finally look at me with pride instead of pity. But no matter what I did, the scales never balanced. Because favoritism doesn't fade with effort, it feeds on it. There comes a moment, and it's not loud, when you stop waiting. When you stop preparing yourself to be chosen by people who never intended to choose you. That moment came to me one afternoon when I was setting the table again. Out of habit, out of hope. I placed the plates, folded the napkins, straightened the chairs, and realized my hands were shaking. I wasn't excited, I was exhausted. Every motion felt like a rehearsal for disappointment. And I just stood there holding a fork, staring at the table I'd so carefully set. I saw the patterns clearly for the first time, the empty seats, the empty gestures, the empty promises. I thought about how many times I'd begged for inclusion without realizing I was begging for crumbs. And it hit me, maybe I was never supposed to keep setting that table. Maybe I was supposed to walk away from it altogether. The world doesn't prepare you for the loneliness that comes with walking away from family. It sounds noble in theory, boundaries, self-respect, but in practice, it's brutal. Because no matter how right you are, there's still a part of you that aches for what could have been. The little girl in me still wanted her parents' love, her sister's respect, her family's warmth, but the woman I'd become was tired of starving. So, I stopped setting plates for people who only ever came to take. I stopped hosting dinners that left me drained and unappreciated. I stopped explaining my feelings to people who treated empathy like a burden, and slowly, painfully, I started building something new. At first, it felt strange, eating alone, celebrating small things with just my kids, redefining what family meant. But as the weeks passed, I realized that peace has a flavor too. It's quiet, gentle, nourishing. It fills the spaces that disappointment used to live in. My kids laughed more. I laughed more. The house didn't feel heavy anymore. I learned that love isn't proven by who shows up to your table, it's proven by who brings something to it. I stopped measuring my worth by invitations and started measuring it by the peace in my home. The phone calls that never came stopped hurting. The missed holidays stopped feeling like losses. Because what was I really missing? People who couldn't even see the hurt they caused. There's a certain freedom that comes when you accept that not everyone you love is capable of loving you the way you need. It doesn't make them monsters. It just makes them limited. And once you stop expecting depth from shallow waters, you stop drowning in disappointment. I used to think walking away meant giving up on family. Now I know it means choosing yourself for the first time. It means building a life that doesn't revolve around being tolerated. It means understanding that love without respect is just manipulation with nice lighting. I stopped explaining myself to people who were committed to misunderstanding me. I stopped showing up for people who only remembered me when they needed something. I stopped apologizing for taking up space in rooms that made me feel small. And in that silence, something miraculous happened. I started to feel full. Not full of bitterness or pride, but full of self-respect. Full of the kind of calm that comes from knowing you don't owe anyone your peace. My kids noticed it too. They started smiling more freely, talking more openly, It was like they could finally breathe without waiting for permission. One evening, my daughter asked if we could invite her friend's family over for dinner. I hesitated at first. Old winds make you cautious. But we did. We cooked together, laughed, ate, and shared stories. No one compared, no one competed. No one left feeling smaller. It was simple, real, and beautiful. And that's when I realized the truth. I'd been avoiding the table I was waiting to be invited to wasn't the one meant for me. I was meant to build my own. One where kindness is served first. Where no one has to earn a place. Where everyone leaves with something more than they came with. I still think about my parents sometimes. I still wonder if they noticed the silence. If they missed the version of me who kept setting the table no matter how many times they left me hungry. But that version of me doesn't exist anymore. She grew up, finally. She learned that love isn't proven by persistence, it's proven by presence. The table I build now is smaller, quieter, but every seat is filled with gratitude. No hierarchy, no leftovers. Just love that doesn't need to be begged for. Healing began the moment I stopped setting a place for people who never planned to serve me anyway.